All right, party begins. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much. Honestly, I am humbled beyond words to be up here in front of you today. So thank you, Provost, and thank you, Dean, thank you, faculty and staff, and thank you, parents. I mean, how proud are you guys of these folks, right, and friends? What an incredible achievement, something I would have loved to have done. So I'm just honored to be with you guys. And I gotta say, Robert Bunyan, I mean, I couldn't be more proud to be here with you today. You graduated first from the school of business the year I was born. Now, I don't wanna make you feel old or anything, but honestly, that is incredibly impressive. I wanna be your friend, I mean, honestly. All right, so I'm gonna talk to you today about finding your passion and then never giving up. I think it's just too important not to talk about. And then share my own path on how I got to find my passion. Because everybody's is a little different. Now, I know today is the day you all have been waiting for quite some time. And if you're anything like me, when I was in college, some of you have wondered whether you'd be here today. I had my own challenges, and I know many of you have yourself. Your journey's not been an easy one. Maybe you've had to struggle financially, academically, even motivationally. Maybe it's taken a lot longer than you thought. But none of that matters now, right? You made it. You've ridden out the storm, and now you get to bask in the sun. And isn't that what life is really all about? Setting goals, learning along the way, and then achieving the goals, no matter how long it takes. Life's about graduating to those next steps. That sense of satisfaction is a high that it's hard to replicate. But it's not the goals that define the experience, of course, it is the journey. It's the path and the how you get there. So you might be wondering who the heck I am. Dean did a fantastic job of representing me. But honestly, I've been wondering, why would anybody trust me to send you onto your path in your business world, in your business life? I actually never graduated from an advanced degree. I never went to business school. In fact, I never even applied. And honestly, I actually couldn't. I was one of those guys that couldn't wait to get out of school. It was just itching, even though it did take me 5 years. But I know what it's like to work so hard for something and achieve it, despite all the odds and all the headwinds. And that's the story I'm about to tell you. All right, so many people call me a serial entrepreneur because I've started a bunch of businesses, but it really took me decades to realize the truth about myself. So I worked for large companies like Ernst & Young, Intel, big 100,000 person companies. And I found it very, very exciting, and I had a lot of meaningful experiences as a part of it. But honestly, I feel the most alive as an entrepreneur, with the very decisions of the company in my hands day to day. And that's really where I started to gravitate. So I got that bug long ago in my teenage years. I actually, like many of you probably, had the paper route, had the car wash business, had the lawnmower business, you name it. I simply wanted to do things on my own. But in 1992, I started my first real startup in Palm Springs. It was called Computer Ease. Now, yes, I got much, much better at naming my companies after that. It was an IT services company, so I went out and installed computers and networks and all that stuff, and I had a lot of fun. But there was a pivotal moment that created that company for me. So I was working for a smaller consultancy before that, and my boss came to me one day after I showed him something I was very proud of. I had built a security or a software product on my own time and long before I had started working there, and I showed it to him because I was super proud, and he said, he looked at the end with the credits and he goes, "Stu, where's my name on the program, on the product?" And I go, "Well, you didn't write it. I wrote it. It's my code. It's my everything." He says, "Well, if you can't put my name on the software program, you need to quit." So I indulged him. And I've never looked back. And it's these sort of experiences that have helped me along my way really know that entrepreneurship is for me. So then in 1999, I started another company called Foundstone here in Mission Viejo and in Irvine. We literally wrote the book on hacking, as Dean mentioned, and created a product to automatically hack company networks. Don't worry, there's all legally allowed, of course. And that was a ton of fun. I rode the dot-com boom in 1999, and then, of course, only for it to fall out in March of 2000. And we were all looking around the table saying, how are we going to pay payroll? But those were exciting times. Foundstone was bought by McAfee in 2004, and when I went on to work for them until 2012, when I decided to start Silence. By the way, has anybody heard of Silence by chance? A couple people? Yeah? Don't be ashamed. Thank you. Well, it was, if not, if you haven't, obviously a lot of you haven't, anytime you go to Irvine Spectrum next time, just take a look at one of the new buildings up there. We've been honored by our headquarters being moved there a couple years ago. So in just 6 years now, 6 years, with almost 1,000 people working at Silence, we're on the brink of going public last year, towards the end of the summertime, about September timeframe, when we agreed to be acquired by BlackBerry for $1.5 billion. Yeah, that's billion dollars, yeah. And believe it or not, BlackBerry is still alive. I was shocked myself when they came knocking. But they have turned that company into a thriving cybersecurity and business safety company. And they are running on, you probably don't know this, but they're running on over 120 million connected cars today, providing safety in self-driving and connected cars today. Really, really impressive. And it'll probably be featured in some Harvard Business Review, how John Chen made that turnaround in the company. So I am a very lucky man, and I've been given more in life than anyone could possibly ask for, but it never came easy. I had headwinds pretty much every step of the way, and almost no one to help me. Very few mentors. I had to figure out pretty much everything for myself. So I grew up in LA and in Guam. Has anybody heard of Guam by chance? Anybody? Yeah? Yeah, Chamorro? Yeah, sweet. Not many people have, don't feel bad, but it is an incredibly small island. It's about 30 miles in length and 7.5 miles in width. I only say that because I was a cyclist back then. I used to ride the island so many times, made me dizzy sometimes. But the small island claustrophobia didn't really get me. That wasn't the challenge. It was really being a scrawny white kid. That was the big challenge, right? So I had to learn survival skills at a very young age, and honestly learned how to fight or run really, really fast, depending on who I was trying to fight. And these skills have served me incredibly well throughout my life. So while Guam was hard, I learned great lessons there. I went on to college at CU Boulder, go Buffs. Yeah, where I wanted to be an architect, a psychologist, then a lawyer. Everybody said I was good at arguing. So was my son, by the way. And countless other professions, but honestly, I failed at all of those paths. I failed, one after the next after the next. Wasn't for me, until I found computer science. And in that world, I found my nirvana, my passion, and a talent for my passion. I could create anything I wanted on the computer and make it do whatever I wanted. But it took countless failures to find that passion. In fact, I have failed far, far more times than I've succeeded in my life. Probably on a 100-to-1 ratio. So every time I've had one simple success, I've probably had at least 100 failures that I've had to get used to accepting. But I have this flaw in me that says, well, anything can be done if you just set your mind to it. I've often wondered where I got that from. So I'm 50-year-old this year, just turned big 50. But this February, I celebrated only 30 years of life. That's because I survived a plane accident in 1989. It was a 747 United Airlines flight from Honolulu out to Sydney, Australia, and Auckland on February 24th. And the plane was literally falling out of the sky and into pieces. None of us knew what had gone wrong. All of us knew simply that we were just not going to make it. We just knew it. We saw it in each other's faces and felt it in our bones. In fact, many of us died in our heads that night, but I guarantee you only a few really lived after we landed. I've been given another 30 years of life, and I've spent almost every year since trying to show the pilot who saved us all that I was worthy of that gift. So the source of the explosive decompression that occurred, it opened a huge hole in the side of the plane, 20 by 40 feet, and took people out. But it was why that happened as to what created my passion. It happened because of two design flaws: a wiring short that allowed the door to open up in mid-flight, and a backup hooking mechanism that's supposed to hold the door in place, made of aluminum when the door is made out of steel. And you don't have to be a mechanical engineer to know that those are probably not the best materials to be putting together. So I knew, and I swore that day, I knew that I had to find a purpose that was bigger and beyond me, of preventing catastrophes. And in my place, it was cyber. It was cybersecurity. And it was using AI to do it, machine learning and prediction. So that's what Silence does. It learns from the past to predict the future so that it can predict and prevent any cyber attack out there today. And it is very comforting to know that we've been able to create this company to do that, to prevent and predict suffering. So here's my lessons of success. I'll go through them very quickly. Lesson 1, be afraid, but do it anyway. Like some of you, my parents divorced when I was young, and as I grew up, I sort of yearned to live on my own. So at the age of 15, I escaped to Colorado Springs by myself. I went to Colorado Springs because I was a cyclist, and I wanted to train at the Olympic Training Center, but I wasn't invited. That didn't seem to deter me at all. I just went up to the front door and started to knock on the door. And it took probably 3 or 4 weekends of knocking on doors. Finally, I got the coach there to listen to me. And somehow I convinced him to let me into the training program. It was probably my annoying persistence, which I am famous for. I lived with a family for 2 years in high school there, but I ultimately failed. I never made it onto the team. I never made it to the Olympics. But that decision really did set and concretize, I think, my path. It gave me the faith in myself to be able to continue on despite many, many rejections and many, many failures. So be afraid, but do it anyway. Number 2, never let someone else define your limitations. This happens a lot. A lot of people will tell you, yeah, you can't do this, you shouldn't do that, or you're not really good at that. Do this. When I was a young entrepreneur, I had countless people telling me I couldn't do something, honestly. And it continues even to this day, believe it or not. People will say, oh, Stu, don't do that. You don't know how to do that. Okay, it's fine. So all you do is you listen respectfully, you thank them for their input, and then you go do whatever the heck you want to go do. So never let someone else define your limitations. Number 3, be humble and kind. This is harder than you think, especially when you start to find some success. You're graduating into a healthy economy now, but it won't always be that way. You'll need to take the highs with the lows and the good with the bad. So be prepared. And life will kick you in the teeth when you're down, for sure. And you can let it get to you. You can even take it out on others. But ultimately, you will succeed. And when you do, look to the left and to the right of you and behind you and help the other person get to where you are. Because that's what success is all about. It's sharing the success. So be humble and kind. Last lesson. And this one, my kids, who are in the audience here today, know all too well. Life is not fair, right? I tell you that all the time. Life's not fair. You don't deserve anything, but never give up anyway. I have an amazing wife, 4 kids that keep me grounded and, quite frankly, exhausted most weekends. 2 of my kids are here today, Evan and Cameron, and I've shared, obviously, all these many gems, I'm sure many of which have gone unremembered. But I think life is not fair is one of them that I try to drive as much as I can. If one of them used to yell, hey, that's not fair, Cameron got a bigger cookie, or whatever. I'm not picking on Evan. Cameron said that too. I would tell them, wait a second, hold on. Who told you life was fair? Where is this in the manual? I didn't see this part. And I would actually try to make it a little bit more challenging for that child, just to prove my point. But eventually they stopped saying it, and know now that there is no such thing as fair, only hard work. One of my favorite Clint Eastwood lines once said in the movie Unforgiven, "Deserve's got nothing to do with it." He's saying you don't deserve anything just because you're there, so don't be a victim. Be purpose-driven and passionate. If you do, you'll never be disappointed in life because everything you achieve will be deserved. And almost nothing will get you down. To not give up in the face of an unfair world is much harder, but orders of magnitude more meaningful. Life is not fair, but never give up anyway. I've always tried to guide my children to find their passion. If you do, I tell them, then you won't work a single day of your life. You've heard this many times. Every day will be a thrill, but finding your passion is actually pretty darn hard. It took me a long time. And it's sometimes impossible for a lot of people. So I have an easier challenge for you all. Forget about finding your passion. Find one problem, the bigger the better, that you want to solve, that you find that you're passionate about solving. Find that one problem. And then, of course, never ever give up. Simple formula. After all, never giving up is the definition of any entrepreneur, and certainly every great leader. The truth is that pretty much everyone gives up on their goals and dreams at some point. So if you stay true to your goals, even if you have vicious competitors, by simply never giving up, you will outlast and overcome. You'll win. Everyone has challenges in their life, a bad dad or mother, or depressed sibling, or major illnesses, what have you, or financial problems. You don't have to be the smartest, you don't have to be the fastest, you don't have to be the prettiest or funniest, or most liked. In the end, this is what's nice about this guidance. All you have to do is never give up. So I've had many inspirational people in my life, but the one I think that had the biggest impact was my father. He moved us to Guam when I was very little, 2 years old, and started his own company there. That had to be incredibly challenging given the circumstances at the time. But I used to go to his office, and I would watch him signing documents and checks, and I was fascinated. So I tried to fake his signature many, many times. That was my fun little game I would play. I look back on it now, it was probably the beginnings of my hacking career. I probably shouldn't have done that. But I also used to think, if my dad could do this, geez, why can't I do this, right? I'm sure you've seen that in other people. He was an inspiration. So small business, entrepreneurship, it really is the backbone of a healthy world economy. And all of you have the opportunity and responsibility to be a part of that future. I want you to know that I have your back here in Orange County. I'll be here helping build businesses, building the community, creating jobs, and expanding our reach around the world. I want to make Orange County an AI supercenter for the world to envy. By applying math and data science to the world's most difficult and challenging problems, we can solve once unsolvable problems. We can cure once incurable diseases, and we can manage and reduce unimaginable pain and suffering. But we do need each and every single one of you all. We need your passion and your spirit. We need your energy. We need you to solve the problems that you want to solve, that you're passionate about. Without your young and fresh and hopeful minds, we'll never, ever get there. So remember, be afraid, but do it anyway. Don't let others define your limitations. Be humble and kind, and never, ever give up. Now go forward and kick some booty. Thanks, everybody.